We got more engagement cards in the mail today. It's starting to become a second job trying to write all these thank you cards out, because God forbid you pick up a pen and help write them.
Sorry, dear.
You need to give me your list for the engagement party.
All right.
You're going to be on your best behavior. Do you understand me? Are you even listening to what I'm saying to you?
What?
What are you doing?
I'm watching this video. Chris Jericho won the fucking belt, and he lost it in 24 hours. I'm not saying he lost it in the ring. No, he literally lost the fucking belt.
Is this for your stupid podcast? This isn't even paying for our wedding.
Why are you such a cranky bitch?
If you spent half as much time paying attention to me as you do to this stupid wrestling shit, I wouldn't be so cranky.
Oh my God.
It's time for another wrestling podcast. All right. Are you fucking kidding me?
Guys, I got blocked again on Twitter.
I'm your mark of marks.
That's the most reliable source on the interwebs.
The social assassin at your disposal, bitches.
Of all the fucking things that happened this week, you want to talk about Steve Austin's show?
He retweeted me. I was like, he looked like he was on a tweeting roll. So I tweeted something good about his show and he retweeted me. And then all of his followers started liking my post. I was going in for the good tweet.
I'm sorry, I didn't even watch his show. I passed out before Raw ended.
It's really good. I do want to say it's really good. And right after Raw, I don't know. I enjoyed it. I love watching Steve Austin. And it's like a live podcast. I don't know. Talking, doing some tricks, or he plays a game, and Becky Lynch stunned him at the end of this episode. But it was pretty good. I enjoy it. I'm enjoying straight up Steve Austin.
It's not a bad show. I watched that episode very briefly, a couple minutes here. I caught the end. I was like, you know what? He seems like he's enjoying himself. It's not the same old like yelling and screaming. He's actually not a bad interviewer when he's just relaxed and chilling. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure.
I did watch that one episode where he was driving the car and went right into like the ocean or the water, and he was just driving around like it was a speedboat. That is a fucking sick ass car. If you did not see that episode.
Oh man, no, it's something that's finally good on TV. I feel like the dude's had so many TV shows, but like this one, I'm down for. I know he had like the Redneck Ranch or Broken Skull Ranch, and then all that other stuff, but I don't know. I'm digging this one more. I think.
That's the bottom line. Stone Cold Simpson.
Cooter, you know, it's a great show. I'm enjoying it. But you know what I'm also going to enjoy is that Bill Alfonso, Fonzie, is going to be joining us later. Famous ECW ref, former WWE ref, and manager. So, ECW days. Fonzie's on the show today, Cooter. What do you think?
Oh, Fonzie. That guy is so fucking great. Oh, God. Him with Sabu, him with RVD. Oh, Jesus. I mean, I remember that match he had with Beulah McGillicuddy. That was a bloody
one of my favorite matches.
It really is. Two people who should not be in the ring put on an incredible match. What a fucking amazing bloodbath.
No, and you know, once again, a shout out to Eric Sims of ESS Promotions, ESSpromotions.com. He's going to have Bill Alfonso at Legends of the Ring on September 21st, along with a plethora of other talent there that you guys can meet. Maybe we'll get them on the show.
It's no BS, it's ESS. If you found $100 on the street, would you pick it up or would you keep walking? Of course you'd take the money. So why you keep picking winners and not betting on them? That's why I go to MyBookie. It's fast, it's easy, and they pay when you win. Let's face it, where you're betting is just as important as who you're betting on.
Now, Cooter, I wouldn't be telling you guys to bet with them if they weren't the best.
Do the smart thing. If you're going to bet on this football season, bet with MyBookie.
Did you know you could bet on games after kickoff? If by the second half it looks like your bet is going to lose, you can always just take the other side.
If you're the kind of guy that likes to bet a little and win a lot, try a parlay. If all your picks come through, you'll multiply your winnings. And no matter how you bet, the NFL season is the best time of year.
Join now, and MyBookie will double your first deposit. Use promo code AWrestling to activate the offer. That's promo code AWrestling. Visit mybookie.ag today.
You play, you win, you get paid, bitches.
Last week we talked about the Wednesday Night Wars coming back, AEW versus NXT, but this past weekend, we had the first steps of what we're gonna see, I guess, because NXT UK had their show on, and then All Out was on. We got to get into this because they weren't head to head, but it was on the same day, and was it kind of a little bit of a competition in that day? Who could have the better show? And if I could get all of us to maybe give like our own thoughts on both shows, what we thought of them real quick, and then we'll go into some other stuff. But at the end of the day, what'd you enjoy the most? And I don't know, what'd you think about the other show that you didn't like?
Listen, I think we all can agree on one simple thing. Walter versus Tyler Bate was the match of the fucking weekend, month. That's a candidate for match of the year.
Definitely was.
The whole weekend was packed with great matches. And I'm going to say this. I did watch All Out in its entirety. I didn't hate it. There were some good things about that fucking show. And there is a lot of shit that really is annoying. And I don't know if it's just because I'm nitpicking or maybe their style is just not my thing. But, please.
What would you think, Mike? Would you like All Out or NXT UK better?
I found NXT UK more entertaining for me. All Out was good. I'm not taking anything away from them. I thought it could have been better. They have a difficult time with match placement, I want to say. They're kind of taking the page out of New Japan, where New Japan always has the co-main event, the semi-main event, and then the main event in that order. They don't put a buffer in there. But other than that, like the Omega versus Pac match, I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed the opening match with Luchasaurus, Marco Stunt, and Jungle Boy versus SCU. I mean, SCU are the perfect guys to open any show. And for some reason, their act still isn't stale because the crowd just feeds into it. And Luchasaurus was a guy, to me, who I really wasn't too familiar with. I actually really enjoyed him in this match. He stood out amongst everybody else. I already know how Marco Stunt is. I know Marco Stunt is crazy. Jungle Boy, I really haven't seen much from him lately. I mean, the only thing I really know from him, that's Luke Perry's son. Other than that, the ladder match was good. I think they kind of tried a little too hard, and they did spots that for me, was a little too much, but it wasn't a bad match. The main event was lackluster, I'm not going to lie. But when you compare that main event to the UK main event, the NXT UK main event, it's night and day.
No, yeah. Yeah, watching it to where I didn't really know NXT UK as much. I mean, I've seen bits and pieces. I've kind of known the roster, who they are, but I haven't been watching it every week. It goes back to a lot of wrestling in a week. But so I watched it going in blind, if you will. And I'll tell you, man, that UK crowd was definitely a lot better than that Chicago crowd. I think a little bit that night. Just the energy in it makes it a whole other pay-per-view. And just seeing the fans out there, do what they do best and just fucking be wild and just be that third person out there. So to me, having that kind of crowd made the UK show a little bit more enjoyable. Cooter, you mentioned the main event on NXT. I liked it, but I didn't like all the kind of. I personally thought there was probably too many false finishes with a big guy like Walter. I liked the match. I think that was, if I'm going to nitpick, it was just, I felt like they dragged it out too much, like too many false finishes for Walter, to where a few here and there, it's okay, but then, I think he should have came back a lot stronger, a lot faster. But
how long was that thing? They went near damn 50 minutes, didn't they?
About 45 to 50 minutes, yeah.
Yeah, man, that's a long fucking time.
Yeah, so I think that was the only thing, but I guess, that's what's going to happen when you go along with the match. But, that crowd, though, that was the main thing for me. It was just, I think, since I didn't know a lot of the roster on the UK show, I that crowd cheering them on just helped me put me into that show a lot more than if I wasn't, just like on my phone or the show's on. I'm not really into it because I can't really get into it with the crowd kind of a thing. So I thought that was a big plus for me. But did you guys have like the biggest gripe for me? Like I said, I thought maybe too many false finishes for
please.
that.
Oh, please. Wait. The biggest gripe of the weekend?
For the shows, yeah, for All Out or NXT.
Oh, this is easy. This is so fucking easy. Jimmy Havoc, fucking Jelly Janela, and fucking yeah, I said it. And I love this fucking guy. But what's wrong with him?
It's fucking nuts.
Why are you fucking every time you have to do one of the most dangerous fucking spots?
I know.
He's gonna have back problems.
What's his name?
Darby Allin.
Darby, that's right. I couldn't think of his first name. Darby Allin. I love this guy, not for the crazy shit that he does, but because what he's able to do. He's quick. He has some innovative maneuvers. He's got great in-ring psychology. I like the look. You don't need to be jumping off the top of a fucking with a barrel on your back on a fucking steel set of stairs. There's just no fucking reason for this.
You know, here's the thing with that. Here's the thing with that, Cooter, is it's crazy. He's nuts because he does that every match. I mean, if you remember the match he had with Cody the last event?
The Pepsi plunge. I saw that when we did it on the apron.
He's necessary. He's nuts, and I get it. Like, you're hardcore. I love it. You're entertaining. You can go out there and put on a 5-star match. You do not have to do that every night to entertain me. I don't want to see you at 27 years old, paralyzed, or anything bad happening. You're good, man. You've earned my respect. You don't have to do this anymore. Once in a while, you could take that out, but not all the time.
And he's a skateboarder too, so I mean, he's taken a lot more falls outside of the ring too, and fallen while skateboarding. And I mean, that coffin drop, it was awesome to see somebody do it. You don't see a lot of guys even do that. And I think once in a while is great, but man, I think, like I said, I don't hate him. But if he keeps doing that, man, his wrestling career won't last too long.
Yeah,
that's one. Not only that, he's going to end up. It's that fucking move, the coffin drop, is going to be the next annoying thing. It's going to be like Roman doing the Superman punch.
He did those same back drops that he does all the time, the coffin drops. I watched an Evolve card. They put him in a body bag, and he did it in a body bag. He did not see where he was going, and he still did this move. It's fucking insane.
Yeah, I mean, like, at the end of the day, that's why he probably signed with AEW, because they wouldn't have even used any of this for him in WWE, because they would sell him. Don't do that, man. You're not going to last long doing that. So,
I got to throw something out here real quick. I want to piggyback off of something that Mike said, where he was talking about there being no buffer matches in between those things. Here's the funny thing. I paused the pay-per-view because I watched it the day after. I stopped it right after the Bucks match. All right. And then I went and ate something, and I didn't go back until like half hour later. Now that's the second time I watched the Jericho match, because the first time I watched it directly after. I actually watched part of this card twice. The first time I saw it, I'm like, this match was terrible. But when I was watching it practically as a standalone, it's actually a pretty decent fucking match. It's a lot better than you think it is. But you're comparing it to the fucking car crash that you had just witnessed right beforehand. You didn't have the opportunity to chill out and come back down.
Well, even when I was watching too, to me, we mentioned this a lot. I think we all agree why they made Jericho the champion. Name recognition. I mean, you're going into their first show soon. You have a name like Chris Jericho. To the casual fan, they're going to watch it, right? We get it. But I'll tell you, man, you have this 49-year-old, I guess, going up against 27-year-old Hangman Page. And he's just, you compare body types in a way. If like you meet Chris Jericho in person alone, he's fine. But when you put him in the ring with somebody who's like 20 years younger than him, he's starting to look like Flair in that ring. And I think he's just looking a little bit gassed, if you will. And I
don't think Flair ever looked that bad.
No, I know, but I feel like he's entering that realm of, dead man walking, old man walking kind of thing. And trust me, Jericho, I feel like he should leave after this, after he loses I don't know. Hang it up the boots, man. Like, go out on top, because
he's got a 3-year contract with them, and he's going to ride that shit out.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. And that's crazy, because you know what? It's so sad, because
like
he's actually putting on decent matches. They're not. He's not like It's his look. He looks bad, but he's not performing bad. So it's like I'm kind of okay with it. It's like that wily veteran. He's like the mangy lion, with his last year at the top of the pride, trying to hold on. It's like it's kind of cool to me in a way.
Well, I think with Jericho, he is better with who he's in the ring with. I think that's what it is because of his age. Like he's not the Jericho of old, but if you put him in a ring with a guy who can control the pace like a ring general in a way, he puts on a better match. I don't see Page as a ring general. I mean, I think Page is good, and I don't want to take anything away from him, but he's not great. He still has a lot more improvement, in my opinion, to go. So that's just my opinion about Jericho.
No, yeah, and if we change the channels back and forth like the Monday Night Wars we used to, if we go back to NXT UK real quick with Cesaro, to where
my God,
I'm such a Cesaro fan, and I feel so bad that they haven't put any a decent push behind him to be a WWE champion or whatever. And when you put him back like in his home area, if you will, overseas with the UK, and the fans like just showing him how that he should be treated, if you will. It's like damn shame for you American fans. Like, come on, he's such a great talent, and I love his finisher. But the guy, I don't even know the guy he faced because I'm not familiar too much with the names. But he made that guy look rock solid. He put that guy over, even if the guy lost. He put on a great match. And I wish something would come from this. And the next night he loses on what is it, Raw or SmackDown or whatever, and it's like, come on,
no.
Can't we just get behind what this dude just did? Flew over to the UK, had a great, fucking awesome match, and then he comes back
that's why he lost. It was fucking jet lag, bro.
Oh, there you go. There's always gotta be a reason.
They had to put the Miz over because he's going into a program in Nakamura. That's the reason why. Which I think that program is terrible. To be honest with you.
But don't you think if you're going to do that, there's somebody better
I know.
to help
Why
get
waste
them
it on
over than Cesaro?
I can completely agree with you on that.
Put in Shelton Benjamin or fucking some scrub. I mean, we got Zack Ryder. Dust that motherfucker off and throw him in the ring. Kurt Hawkins, somebody from the B team. I don't care.
Well, okay. Well, let's go back because the UK show was great. They had a lot from the whole ring breaking, Cesaro showing up, even their main event. A lot of different elements to their show, especially
that
the crowd.
tag was amazing too.
Yeah, man. Everything on it was like I said, going into this blind, not knowing the guys, not really, 100% behind them, if you will, just watching it and absorbing it for what it was, a great fucking show. But was there anything you thought these guys had to improve on this weekend, whether it's NXT or just AEW's show? Because I know some of the graphic guys in the back were fonting the wrong names. And
oh, God.
Who was it?
Who did they have Jimmy Havoc's name out there? Was Joey Janela, I think it was.
Darby Allin walking out at, yeah.
Yeah, that's what it was. All right. Came out with Jimmy Havoc's name or some shit like that.
Well, I mean, watching it, though, do you think, AEW will be... to me, it literally reminds me of the way WCW was filmed. Just the lighting, I feel like they have the same people who used to work on the other show. It's, to me, They
actually do have a couple of people from WCW. Shivani was talking about it.
Because it contrasts well. I mean, when you watch WWE, you're watching it. And when you watch AEW now, I feel like you know that it's not WWE, but... I don't know. Was there anything that's you think they should still improve on more?
Match placement. I think the one thing that I can give the WWE credit for is that they are very good at match placement. Meaning, you have crazy match, you have a buffer match that kind of brings the crowd back down, kind of gives them some time to relax, and then you gives them that crazy main event. I think for them trying to take a page out of New Japan Pro Wrestling, where it's just you have one decent opening match and then every other match is just least important, semi-important, important, then it's the semi-main event, co-main event, main event. It's in that order. I could tell how the fans are. I mean, for me, it was a little bit of exhausting. I think match placement is one thing they need to do. I think they have to really figure out their hardcore division. Hopefully they're not doing those crazy spots every Wednesday night because it's going to really be weird.
Well, was it long to you too? Because I was
going to say that for me
it was long.
Hard length.
It was long.
Let me throw that. Yeah,
it ended at midnight if you watch it live.
Dude, we're getting tired watching Raw for 3 hours. For a 4-hour pay-per-view, it's just too fucking much.
Ain't WrestleMania,
I don't care.
baby.
WrestleMania is, you can't compare fucking
No, of
apples
course.
to peach pits, motherfucker. Come on now.
Let's go back to this whole Jericho losing the belt because this was ridiculous.
The best.
When I
story
first
of
saw
the
it, I'm
week.
like, it wasn't like everywhere, and it just started on this one site that reported it, and then like another site picked it up, and then another site, and then a legitimate news source picked it up. I'm like, he is fucked. Like it's just spreading like wildfire. Then this motherfucker comes back, sitting in a fucking hot tub with his pompadour or whatever hat on,
Pouring the bubbly.
and he talks about it actually being like an international crisis or whatever. And I'm like, I would feel so embarrassed to even acknowledge that you fucking lost the championship. And I'm arguing with people. I'm like, why the fuck did he even take the championship? It's not like they're going on tour or traveling anywhere, or he's like has a show next week or tomorrow. Fucking AEW keep it because they valued this fucking thing at $29,000. $29,250 was the police reported that they valued it at, and they're saying right now that a good Samaritan who found it on the side of the road, who discovered it, turned it into the police. Are you telling me that the person who turned it in was actually the guy who fucking found? I feel like that's the guy who took it and then just said he found it just to turn it in. But man,
I'll tell you
story
something.
behind this.
If I was the guy that found it, I would be taking a lot of selfies with that fucking thing. Like pictures, everything I could possibly do. And yeah, I would return it, but I would wait before I post those pictures for, what is it, the statute of limitations, where they can't do shit to me after.
Possession,
Yeah.
9/10 of the law.
Yeah. I found this to be one of the greatest stories ever in this week. I mean, just the fact that he went to a Longhorns, he left it in the limo, and then I guess his bags got mixed up with other people's bags. Am I saying this correctly, or correct me if I'm wrong? And then when he came back, the title was gone, and one of the funniest things I found about it is that AEW and everybody just kind of went along with it rather than just kind of like sulking over it. And then the promo with Jericho making it to an international crisis, I thought was great.
I can't believe they only had one belt, too. I figure if they got it made, they would have, like, another one just in case this would happen, you know? Or, hell, man, it's 2019. I can't believe they don't even put, like, GPS trackers in these fucking things now. So, like, if it's $29,000, you're going to let somebody just carry it around and, like, man, I'm like, dad mode over here trying to figure out why they only have one and they couldn't even track it down or whatnot. But
oh my god, he's a fucking idiot. Can we just say it? How can you be fucking stupid? I've never lost my belt that holds up my pants. I've been drunk plenty fucking times. You've seen me, Credo. Mike, you too. You've seen me in some pretty shitty fucking situations that I put myself into, usually involving a shitload of vodka and some laughs. Have I ever lost my fucking belt? How am I going to lose a huge title belt like that? You got to be kidding me.
I wouldn't have left it inside the limo.
man,
I would have took that shit with me.
yeah, or like,
That shit would have been right by my side.
don't they have like a bag for it or something? You know, like,
Yeah, but did you guys read the police report, right?
yeah.
So apparently he got his bags mixed up with someone else's, and so I don't know if his belt was in that bag. Just imagine, like, you got off a flight and you get your bag and you open it, and there's a leather jacket with spikes, an AEW world title. How do you explain that to your wife, Credo?
I know, man. I don't know, poor Jericho, but. Not off to a great start, I guess, as world champion. But guys, you know, other things that happened this weekend too, which we didn't talk about. They had some StarCast interviews going on too at All Out this weekend, and one of the biggest ones was CM Punk, who came back. And I love watching all interviews with CM Punk. I just love the way he talks, how he answers his questions. And one of the questions that he opened up about was that, he would be open to talks with WWE or anyone. I think that's one of your biggest reasons why Mr. Punk did not sign with AEW, because now he can use them as a leverage to get even more money from WWE of going back. And, Vince has brought back some people you thought he would never bring back, from fucking Bret Hart as one of them, and a handful of others that have, come and gone through the years. And from what CM Punk did is, I don't know, pennies compared to what others have done through the years. So I don't know. I think it's smart business. I mean, I don't see CM Punk fighting again. But him, I mean, he's a little bit older now. But at the same time, I think if you brought Punk back to do some kind of matches, that's a good competition. That's a good name to put up against your AEWs or whatever, and to keep people interested. I don't know. Do you guys think WWE would be smart enough to pay Punk for whatever he wants, I guess? I mean, the fucking dude still gets chance. CM Punk at shows where he's not even out anymore.
I don't think he wants to wrestle anymore. Why would you? I mean, I think that last run killed his love for the business. And if you feel that way and your heart's really not into it, then he doesn't strike me as the kind of guy where if his heart isn't in it 100%, that he's not going to do it. I don't see him as somebody who's just going to go in there and half-ass it for a payday. I don't think that's who he is. I think it would be a great motivating factor, but he just seems to me the type of guy where it's like, hey, you know what? If I'm going to do this, I'm going to train my fucking ass off. I'm going to get back into shape and give what I got left.
He did seem happy, though. He did take a lot more happy pictures than John Moxley did a few weeks ago. So all the pictures I saw coming out of StarCast, he was actually happy to be with his fans.
You know what? I mean, if he said he's interested, he'll be interested to go into talks with either WWE or whoever. I think if the WWE was smart, they would negotiate something with him just to keep him away from going to AEW.
Yeah.
And then use him correctly. Give him the Brock Lesnar deal. Let him show up whenever, because I think he's at that
point sure, yeah.
where he can. I don't want to see him fight again, just for his safety and my sanity.
Get MMA, right? It's no more MMA fights.
Yeah,
right?
I don't want to see that, because his last fight was the drizzling shits.
I give him credit for doing it. Terrible, but I give him credit for doing it. But at the same time, just take away with it what it was, and as an experience to where, hey man, you had the balls to do it. I fucking wouldn't do that. Good job,
I will
man.
say this. When I saw that video of him in the wrestling ring, just kind of rolling around,
yes.
it kind of was a good feeling to see. Maybe it was just me. I don't know how you guys felt, but it was actually really cool to see him actually in a ring with a smile on his face and just having fun.
Yeah.
What was the line he said during that video? Where it was like, unlike some people, I'll actually be happy to see my fans.
Or I'll actually smile during pictures.
Yeah, I'm like, was he listening to us? I mean, really?
I know, right? But I'll tell you,
fantastic.
Anything can happen in wrestling, and I think that's a really big possibility. Like I said, maybe that's why I'm sure AEW had to have talked to him, especially him being there for some kind of a deal, which we'll probably never know about. But at the same time, I'll tell you, I think it's smart for him right now to hold out, because if WWE's got that cooter?
That fuck money, baby. That green and black.
A lot more than AEW does, and I think they could throw it around a lot easier than what they could right now. So, I don't know. I'll be interested to see if anything comes from this. If not, then it was nice to see him, I guess, at least one more time.
I think WWE's desperate because they got, Fox happening next month, and they got to bring something big.
Cena's not there. Ratings. Yeah, they need somebody. They need some more. That's why they're bringing Steve Austin back next week for Raw and all that stuff. To where
Undertaker next week at the Garden for SmackDown too.
And both nights aren't even sold out.
Yeah, man. I was talking to a guy today too.
Is that true?
Yep, both nights are still not sold out.
Well, I guarantee you the ticket prices, if we went on there, we'd be like, get the fuck out of here. I guarantee you that's what it is.
Steve Austin's on Raw and Taker's on SmackDown.
Yeah.
So they're bringing those names in, but...
So it's funny you bring up ticket prices, because I was listening to something a ticket broker was kind of breaking down a night going to a WWE event. Just say it's you and a family of 4. Okay, that's about roughly for decent seats can be about $500 right there, maybe a little more. That doesn't include your transportation, whether you're taking a train in, bus, or you're traveling, tolls, gas, and all that. Plus, when you get there, you might want to get souvenirs, food, all that. That's $1,000 you could possibly be spending on one night over there.
It's a lot of money, man. It's not like going to the circus or something like that. You know, it's the human circus, but it's expensive, man. So, you know, a lot of good stories coming out of this, but I think one of the greatest things we saw this week, which I feel like they dropped the ball already on, was the Bayley heel turn. I mean, we never got John Cena to turn heel. They wouldn't turn Roman heel, even though they did some other stuff with him, but we got a Bayley, the fucking only kid-friendly person you really have on there, her whole gimmick is hugging people.
Are you really going here?
To turn heel. And I'll tell you what, that moment, the fans were cheering. They were like, finally on Raw to see her turn bad. And I thought it was going to bring out, she's going to put the ponytail down. She's going to come out with new music, change it up. And that would have been a great refresher for her, especially working with Sasha Banks again. But the next night on SmackDown, she comes out to her wibbly wobbly things floating in the air, her same music, the same fucking ponytail. And I'm like, she's supposed to be a heel. She had a heel turn, and this is like a big thing for a person that, you know, I don't know, that's the kid-friendly person, and I don't know, it's only been 2 days, but I feel like they already ruined it on SmackDown after they had such a great ending on Raw.
Credo.
It was a great ending. I loved it.
I thought the ending to Raw was amazing, and I'll agree with you. I thought it was weird. At first, I thought it was weird that she came out to the same music, but part of me is like, well, maybe she hasn't completely hit that fucking, you know, that brick wall yet. It's like they're slowly building her as a fucking, because you've noticed this. Like when she kicked Charlotte out of the chair, what was that, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
That was not like something she would typically do. She's been more of a bitch lately, like the whole Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross angle that they had going on there. They had her be a little bit more edgier than what she's ever been. So I think, you know, in hindsight, I think they're going somewhere with it, and they don't want her to be Miss Badass
full-blown
altogether
heel,
all at once. You know what I'm saying? They want to slowly get there, and that's great because lately, Monday Night Raw and SmackDown have both had, from beginning to end, very good builds throughout the whole show. I watched through Monday when I saw that, I was like, holy shit. I didn't realize that was the end of the fucking show. It flew by for me.
Yep. We're definitely seeing the handprints of Paul Heyman and maybe Eric Bischoff a little bit on SmackDown. So it's a nice. You could definitely tell other things are turning backstage with these guys and hopefully changing the shows around.
My only issue with the turn is that she's in mid storyline with Charlotte.
Yeah. That's
the only thing. Other than that, I've been wanting to see something with Bayley. Something. She's all treble, no bass. I just want to see something happen with this girl. Finally, it's happening. It just, my only problem is my little pet peeve or my nitpicking at this is that she's still in a feud with a heel. So I would rather have seen maybe a double turn happen at Clash of Champions or this happen after Clash of Champions. Yeah. But in mid-feud, it for me, and this is me, I don't know how you guys feel, but for me, it's just a little weird. It just comes off really weird, that's all.
No, yeah, a little weird, a little excitement for a Bayley heel turn. Hopefully, we'll see her go full heel. I guess she's got to go full heel sooner or later, but regardless, guys. Last week, we welcomed back Jonathan Benjamin, you call him JB, back to another wrestling podcast, and he had the pleasure of sitting down with Bill Alfonso, talking a little bit about everything. And guys, I think next time we're in Florida, we have an invite to visit some strip clubs with Fonzie. So
baby,
keep that open. But right now, we have Bill Alfonso.
Today with us is a legendary referee, performer, manager, and the man who calls it right down the middle. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Bill Alfonso.
Oh, thanks, Daddy, for the super introduction, Daddy. Hey, the people call me a legend, but one thing for sure, I'm a legend in my own mind.
How did you get your beginning in the business? Were you a fan starting out, or did you just kind of happen upon wrestling one day?
My friend, my dad was, one of his friends was a sports editor, and I live in Tampa. I was born and raised in Tampa, so Tampa was a real hotbed for wrestling when I was growing up, but I didn't know that. So my dad went to lunch with the sports editor, and the sports editor, Frank Klein, he used to write the results of wrestling, Tuesday Night Wrestling, in the paper Wednesday morning. And they used to comp them a couple of tickets for the Tuesday night event. So my dad came home after having lunch with them, and he said, "Hey, Billy, I got tickets to wrestling my friend Frank Klein gave to me." I said, "Wrestling? What the heck is that?" Never heard of it. I guess I was about 12 years old, 13 maybe. And so I said, "I'm not interested. I've never seen it on TV. I've never watched it. I'm not familiar with it at all." So they sat on the fireplace all weekend. And finally, curiosity got me. I said, "Well, let me take my buddy. We're going to go see what this is all about." My first night at wrestling, I fell in love with it. There was Bobby Shane, Eddie Graham, the Great Malenko, Bobo Brazil, guys like that. And I said, "Damn, love it. That's what I wanted to do." But I grew up to be 155. Oh, and I went from the age of 12 or 13 till 17 or 18. And I met a bunch of guys, Rocky Johnson, King Curtis, John Morocco. I met all these guys. And I was dying to get into wrestling, but I was way too small. I was like $155 soaking wet. And they said, "Hey, Fonzie, you're going to make a great referee one day because you love the business. You're small. You're going to make us look big." And that's how I got started. And then Rocky Johnson and King Curtis got me booked in Dallas, Texas. And I went out there for the Von Erich, for Kelly Blanchard's dad, Joe Blanchard, the Funks and Amarillo, and Paul Bosch in Houston. So I worked for those guys, but small. I worked for them a few times out there 6 months, but they already had David Manning, Bronco Lubitsch, and a few other referees. So it was really hard for me to get a full-time job. I think out of the 6 months, I might have worked 5 or 6 shows. And I said, "Well, let me just go home because this isn't working out." And when I was leaving, Paul Jones, who just recently passed away a year or two ago, he said, "Hey, Fonzie, I heard you're leaving. You can't get work. There's all the referees here, so we can't use you." But he said, "Dusty's the booker in Florida, and Jerry Briscoe is the assistant booker." He says, "When you go home, go to the office and tell them that I sent you and that you worked, for Joe Blanchard, Paul Boss, the Von Erich, and the Funks." And so I did that. And Jerry Briscoe said to me, he said, "Unfortunately, Bill Alfonso, we have our full-time referees, but leave your name with the guy downstairs, Charlie Lay, and if we can happen to use you maybe during the summer for some odd reason, we'll give you a call." I said, "Well, thank you very much." I was disappointed. And so this was on a Monday. Tuesday morning, they called me and they asked me, say, "Hey, can you come down and referee for us Tuesday night at the Fort Homer Hesterly Armory," which is a famous armory, Tuesday night. Dusty main event, the Assassins, just so many names on the card. So I said, "Of course, thank you." What happened was, on Monday, they were in West Palm Beach wrestling, and the referee, who was working full-time for him, had the 3 top matches, the main event, the same-round main event, and the third top match. The referee had him in his car with no spare. Dusty fired him. They had to cancel the show and it was sold out. Dusty was so freaking mad, he fired the guy on the spot, which he should have. That's how I got to work Tuesday night. Then Wednesday night, Thursday night, Jacksonville. Wednesday, Miami. Thursday, Jacksonville. Friday was like Ocala. And it went on. And so Sunday came around, and Jerry Briscoe came up to me and says, "Hey, we want you to work for us full-time." And since May of 1980, I've had a full-time job for over 20 years with all the major companies. Florida Championship Wrestling, which was a big company back in the time. Mid-Atlantic, for Jim Crockett. Then I went to Channel 17, the Superstation, before it was CBS. Then I worked for WCW. Then I went to Vince. then obviously I ended up at ECW, which you guys know about, and now I'm semi-retired.
Well,
So that's how I got into wrestling.
That's an incredible story, and it sounds like not only were you ready to go, but also one of those right place, right time moments. As far as being a referee during that time, that's still kind of, when you were breaking in, it was still part of the territory system that we know about. So what were your thoughts on the territory system? Obviously, you're in one, sometimes you'd be in one city, the next time you'd be in another, as you mentioned. Like, does it take a special kind of person to be able to go through the territory system like that?
Yes, and you better be on your A game, because for referees, there's very limited jobs, and for wrestlers, there's very limited. Well, there was more places to go back then, because Florida was a territory, Georgia was a territory, Mid-Atlantic, the Carolinas, Texas was a territory, Kansas City was a territory, Oregon, California, all these different territories you can go to. The wrestlers could move around, going for 6 months or a year and work the territories, and all the territories would interact with each other, especially the NWA sanction, which was the big league. But up north, it was WWF and then Vern Gagne, AWA. So you had places to go, which was fantastic. And yeah, it takes a special breed for you to be able to travel like that. For instance, every Monday night in Florida was West Palm Beach, which was a 200-mile trip there, 200 miles back, plus you're at the arena for 4 hours and, working hard. Every Tuesday night was Tampa, and we were all based out of Tampa. That's where the office was. The Florida Championship Wrestling office was in Tampa. We would take TV and, of course, the famous Armory every Tuesday night. Every Wednesday was Miami, 250 down, 250 back. Then every Thursday night was Jacksonville, 200 miles up, 200 miles back. Then Friday was usually a spot show, so was Saturday, and then Sunday was Orlando. And it would repeat itself, and there was no days off. We were working 355 days a year or more. So, yeah, it takes a special talent. I mean, it's hard. It's really tough, but once you get going and you're used to it, it gets easy because, that's what you do.
Did you have specific people that you traveled with during that time, or?
Absolutely. But you got to remember, I wouldn't leave. I was stationed in Florida. Now, the wrestlers would come in for a period of time, and then they would leave. But I would, they'd be there for a long time. So I used to ride a lot with Captain Sullivan, Angela Mosca, Sir Oliver Humperdinck. And then, if they left, then we would fit somebody in there, Jake the Snake Roberts, Jimmy Garvin. It just changed. Not all the time, but, 6 months to a year, that was about your time period. Then the guys would go through different territory.
Now, when you started out and you got your break and you were refereeing, were there people that were upset about you being a referee, or were they glad that you were there because you really took it seriously?
No, they were actually glad I was there. And at the end of the week, when I started on that Tuesday, at the end of the week, when Jerry Briscoe said, "We'd like to hire you, you interested?" Of course, I said yes. They had filtered me out. They had looked at me all week, and I was really good. I had known the business already because I was a big fan for years, but I didn't know all the inner workings of it. I didn't know all the lingo, but my time in Texas for the 6 months, I got to learn a lot. But I was such a natural that either, let me give you, for instance, Lex Luger. He's a wrestler, right?
Absolutely.
And he's beautiful. What a body. I mean, he was phenomenal, but he wasn't a natural. It was very hard for him in the ring. He wasn't a spectacular worker. The same with Giant Gonzalez. He was so big, he didn't have the psychology. And so even if you train for 2 years, 5 years on the road, and you're not a natural, it's still hard for you to take a backdrop. It's still hard for you to do things which looks fantastic. You know what I mean? Some matches are great. You can tell when somebody's not a great worker. But, you know, Luger had that fantastic body, and they gave him a big push, but he wasn't that great of a worker. So thank God he was a good-looking kid and had a good body. But, yeah, I would say I was a natural. And the people in Florida, the office, Eddie Graham owned the company, and Dusty was a booker, Jerry Briscoe, and Jackson. They all liked me. I was a likable guy, I guess, because I've had a job so long. If you're not liked in this business, you don't last long.
You've mentioned basically just a who's who of professional wrestlers and professional wrestler talent. You've worked with Eddie Graham, you said the Funks and Briscoes and Dusty Rhodes. People who are listening today, a lot of them may be familiar with all those, but for people who aren't familiar with them, can you give us any stories of, some of the things you learned from these people during that time in Florida?
Well, Dusty was the booker. He was the boss. And he was very, he had his ways. And so here's a story about Dusty. That I did make. You don't make the same mistake twice. If you do, it's your fault, and you may not have a job. You can make a mistake 2 or 3 times. We're only human, but there's people that take your place. You don't want to make any mistakes. So I came we're driving to Orlando, and we had to be there at 7 o'clock. The matches started at 8. They give you plenty of time to get dressed, and as the referee, I had many different things that I had to do, like make sure all the guys were there. And back then, the bad guys, the heels and the baby faces wouldn't get dressed together. So as a referee, I had to go to the booker, sit down with him, and he'd give me the list of the matches. I mean, the matches were already done way in advance, but give me a list of the matches for that night, give me all the finishes, give me things that he wanted to do during the match. And then I would have to carry him over to the other dressing room because they had no communication. There was no cell phones back then. They couldn't talk. So it was the referee's obligation and my job to do that. So, and Dusty wanted us there at 7 o'clock, not 8, not 7:30. He was very punctual. And so I got there I would get there at 7. I said, I went Dusty, but it took a little while for me to get really good and to be able to remember all these things. But not long. I was a natural, like I said, and I was really good at it, and I adapted really quick. If I didn't, I wouldn't have a job. So I'd get there at 7. Dusty would give me all the finishes. I'd go over to the heels and give them their finish. By 7:15, I was done. And I had 45 minutes to get dressed and so on and so on. And there was always 2 referees, but I was the main referee. So one time I got there at 7:15. And Dusty he said, Fonzie, it's 7:15. I said, sorry, Dusty, the line to get in here, the traffic was bad. The place is sold out. And he said, hey, leave an hour early. I don't want you to be late again. And I was never late again. I'd rather be an hour early than 5 minutes late, especially with Dusty, especially anywhere with Vince McMahon. You don't want to be late. You know what I mean? You don't want to be late to your plane at the airport. You miss your freaking flight. So, that taught me a lot. So in life, it worked out. I'm always early. Rather be early than late.
Well, that's great advice for anybody listening as well who are breaking into the business. But you just mentioned WWF, Vince McMahon. We're based out of the Northeast, and obviously that's where WWF, WWE now is based out of as well. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got involved with the WWF back then?
Well, let me lead up to it because I was in WCW. Florida Championship Wrestling had all the territories were kind of folding because cable was taken off. The Superstation, Channel 17, TBS, Vince went nationwide, with his cable system, and all the little territories were folding up. Thank God I was well liked, and Dusty took with me to WCW in Atlanta and worked for Ted Turner, made tremendous money and had a good run there. But Dusty had left. I was there a few years. Dusty had left the territory, went somewhere else, where I forget where he went. But So there was a new guy that was like the CEO of WCW. They brought him in. His name was Jim Hurd. He was like a CEO of a Pizza Hut chain or some big company. He was a real big shot at, a big, big Pizza Hut chain. Not two Pizza Huts. I mean, he was in charge of every Pizza Hut in the freaking nation. You know what I mean? He was the guy. So he was good with money and all that. So they brought him in to shave some of the big deficit, the big expense. And Ted Turner owns CNN, owns the Hawks, owns the Brave, owns Pete Street, owns half of Atlanta, multi-billionaire. But who likes to spend $60 million a year when you can spend 55? You know what I mean? So they brought Jim Hurd in to take a pay cut. I mean, to try to, shave some of the big expenses off. So he came to me, and I was Giant Gonzalez's personal assistant for 3 years. So they wanted me and the Giant and a few other people to take a pay cut. So say the Giant was making $200 a year for the first year. Second year he was going to make $300. The fourth year he was going to make $400 a year. And say I was making $100. It was going to go up to $125 and $150, so on and so on. So they say, hey, Fonzie and the Giant, we want you to take a pay cut because that's what we're going to do. And the Giant didn't want to take a pay cut. Who wants to take a pay cut? We already had signed a contract for that big money.
Absolutely.
So the Giant was kind of frazzled. He said, Fonzie, what are we going to do? He said, I don't want to take a pay cut. I said, me either. But, we may not have a job if we don't. He says, do you know anybody in WWF? I said, I certainly do. I said, I know J.J. Dillon. He's Vince McMahon's personal assistant, and he's one of the big bosses there. I can give him a call and tell him what's going on. He said, why don't you do that? And we were at my house in Florida because the Giant had to have a little foot surgery, so we were in Tampa for like 10 days so he can recoup. And he said, Fonzie, I can go to Japan and work, 10 weeks a year in Japan and be happy. Or I can go back and play basketball, or the European basketball, or maybe we can go to WWF. So I said, well, let me give JJ a call. So I called JJ. I hadn't seen JJ in a while, maybe a year or whatever, but, I've worked with JJ for years in Florida. He was Dusty's assistant booker for a long time. So I called the WWF office at the time. I said, hey, JJ Dillon, please. So there's a sales Fonzie. So JJ gets on the phone. Hey, Fonzie, how you doing? I said, about my family, something brief for a minute. He said, hey, what can I do for you? And I said, well, here's the situation. This is what I told you. I said, Jim Hurd's a new guy. He's a new CEO of WCW. He wants to take a pay cut. The Giant doesn't want to. Our options are European basketball, maybe go to Japan, or come to you guys. And we're a package deal. I said, you got to have a personal assistant. He doesn't drive. He doesn't do this. He doesn't do that. I've been with him 2 years already. And he says, I understand, Fonzie. He says, well, let me run it by Vince and see if he's interested in you guys. And I said, okay, JJ, thank you so much. And we, said our goodbyes and hung up. And I said, Giant, I made my spiel to JJ, but, he's going to call us back one day, maybe, maybe not. You know how that goes. 20 minutes later, he calls me back and says, Fonzie, Vince is definitely interested. When can you guys come up? He wants to talk to you guys. I said, well, we're at my house. Giant's got a little foot surgery, so we can come up anytime. He said, okay, I'll have you 2 round-trip tickets, e-tickets tomorrow. So I said, well, the Giant's got to go first class because he's 8 foot tall, and I'll go coach. He says, oh, we'll put you both in first. I said, oh, thank you. So we went up the next day. Giant was excited, and so was I. I've never met Vince. You know what I mean? I'm a Southern guy by nature of work because I worked in Florida, worked for WCW, and, I never met Vince. So we fly up, we get off the plane. Everybody looks at the Giant. He's 8 foot tall. You know what I mean? It's a wonder. If you don't know who he is, you say, damn, Actually, he was the tallest athlete on the planet for those few years that he was in wrestling. Nobody was taller than him. Now I think the kid in Houston, the basketball player, what's his name, Ming or something?
Yeah.
Played ball. Yeah. He played a little bit of ball in Houston. He's about as tall as Gonzalez. But anyway, we'd get looks everywhere we go. So we get off the plane, and there's Spike Lee at the airport. We do a double knockout with Spike Lee. And the Spike Lee just looks at, Spike's at all the basketball games. You see him all the time on TV in New York.
Yeah.
He was amazed at the Giant. He said he's never seen nobody that big before me, before the kid in Houston, the basketball player. He said, man, who is that guy? I said, well, we're wrestler guys. I'm a referee. And he gave me his card and wanted me to call him later, but we couldn't do that because we were under contract. You know what I mean? But anyway, so we go to Vince's house. Vince isn't there. J.J. Dillon meets us. Instead of going to the office, the limo picks us up. It takes us right to Vince's multi-million-dollar home in Connecticut. We flew into LaGuardia. And J.J. Dillon answers the door, and he says, hey, Vince is running a few minutes late, but come on in, make yourself comfortable. We got some drinks and some food ready for you guys. And so we start bullshitting, and 20 minutes later, in comes Vince with his beautiful suit on and his tennis shoes and not a hair out of place. Hey, guys! He's big shot. And he's real loud, and he's the guy. He's the man. So he walks in, introduces himself. He says, oh, I know you. You're athletic. I've seen you on TV before. I said, thank you, Mr. Zan. He said, oh, call me Vince. And then he went to the Giants, and we started talking and that. He said, well, what's the deal? I told him, Jim Hurd wants to take a pay cut. He says, well, I'm definitely interested, and I want to hire you guys. And Giant says to Vince, he says, well, they still owe me a big check. I haven't collected it, $60,000. And Vince says, don't even go back to WCW. Don't even go back to Atlanta. JJ, write him a check for $60,000. That's his signing bonus.
Wow.
Great. So, and the Giant says, hey, Vince, I haven't been home in 3 years for Christmas. This is like November, I haven't been home for 3 years. He says, can I start sometime in January? And Vince says, of course. That'd give me plenty of time to think of your gimmick and all that. Which, he put that Giant Gonzalez thing on him, the hair suit and all that. So he says, Fonzie, do you want to start in January too? I said, no, sir. I said, I live in Florida. He lives in Argentina. I can start anytime. He said, JJ, add him on to the booking sheet. So JJ adds me on. I get a full-time job. I'm going to work and get acclimated until the Giant comes in January, so I'll be acclimated to the company and everything. And JJ starts writing my schedule down. He puts MSG. I said, JJ, what the fuck is MSG? Never heard of that. He said, Fonzie, that's Madison Square Garden. I said, kidding me? Okay, thank you. So we were there for, we missed WrestleMania 8. We did WrestleMania 9, and then we missed WrestleMania. We left right before WrestleMania 10, which I think was in Madison Square, but had a tremendous run there. It was fantastic, made fantastic money. Vince liked me a lot, so that's how we get to WWF.
Well, as I mentioned, we're up in the Northeast. We're based out of Poughkeepsie, New York,
Poughkeepsie. I've ran that show, that building many times with ECW.
Yes, and I was just wondering, just off the top of your head, if you have any specific Poughkeepsie memories.
Well, we knocked out we did a pay-per-view there. I loved Poughkeepsie. We'd get there. We had a big pay-per-view. ECW had a pay-per-view. It was RVD against Jerry Lynn, and they were having spectacular matches. I mean, like classic matches. They were just perfect together. And so at the pay-per-view, they want you there early. So we 1 o'clock. They got catered food. They don't want you to leave the building and so on. But anyway, I went to walk around downtown Poughkeepsie a little bit and found this little deli and hung out with this fat blonde girl who was beautiful. She was just a little heavy on the bottom, which I like. But we became good friends. I love Poughkeepsie. It was a good good venue for us, good for ECW. And I think I might have went there with Vince too, maybe for a TV or something. But Poughkeepsie was always good for us. And so that night on the pay-per-view, Van Dam gave Jerry Lynn that Terminator and knocked him out cold. Oh my God, what do we do now? It's like only 10 minutes into the match and they want 30 minutes. And so we had to revive Jerry Lynn. And somehow I forgot how we did it, but we did it and we carried on with the match. So that was a crazy night for, we thought we got. Actually, I thought Van Dam killed him because when he gave him that move, the kid went down. I mean, not a kid, but, Jerry Lynn went down and he wasn't moving at all. And I went right over to him. I'd always had a bottle of water with me to feed my guy, Van Dam. But I was giving him water, pouring water on his face and head. He wasn't moving. And I couldn't tell because we were all hyped up, sweaty, and, the adrenaline was flowing. But I thought we killed Jerry Lynn in Poughkeepsie. But eventually he came to. Scary 5 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. ECW is made a permanent mark on not only the history of professional wrestling, but really the history of pop culture, and stuff still comes out about it nowadays, and it really influenced a lot of things, the Attitude Era of WWE and so on and so forth. But you were a major part of ECW, and we just jumped forward a little bit, but how did you get your start with ECW?
Well, I was friends with Paul Heyman. Well, eventually in Florida Championship Wrestling, I became a really well-known referee. I became a really well-known office guy. They took me into the office. So I was part of the office after a while. Not the first couple of years, but, I had to earn my keep, and I got to be very good and was writing TVs and working with Dusty hand in hand. I mean, every TV I was sitting there with J.J. Dillon and Dusty and, do all my stuff. And I became pretty well known. So I was assistant booker. And this wrestler came down to Florida, and his name was Tombstone. He was out of Baltimore. Real nice body. And this kid came with him who I never met. It was Paul Heyman. And Paul was going to ride with Tombstone for 6 months while Tombstone was there. And just kind of like me in Houston, in Texas, trying to get a job, doing whatever. I think he was a photographer or whatever, but he didn't take pictures when he came to Florida. But he was just a friend of Tombstone's, a wrestler, and was going to ride around with him for the 6 months, just like I did in Florida, in Texas. And so we got to know Paul. He was a nice guy. He'd get help around the ring, or he'd do some stuff. We could pay him, or he didn't have a job, but he was just there. With his wrestling buddy. So Tombstone was getting ready to leave, say August 25th. So and you get a 2 weeks. It was all scheduled and all sanctioned by the wrestling office. And they were going to send him back to Baltimore or wherever he was going to go. And Paul Heyman came up to me because I was Dusty's assistant booker. So Paul comes up to me, says, Fonzie, Tombstone's leaving in 2 weeks. He says, do you think I can go to the ring with him and be his manager the last 2 weeks? I've been here for 4 or 5 months, and I've done everything you guys asked, got cokes, help with whatever I've done. I said, Paul, you're a great guy. We love you. You're super nice. But you got a pair of Levi's. You've been dressing with a pair of Levi's with holes in them. You got a stank pair of Converse, and you wear T-shirts. I says, that's all. You can't go to the ring like. I said, can you get a suit? You got money to get a suit? I didn't know his father was mega attorney and lived in the most expensive real estate on the planet, Scarsdale, New York. You know what I mean? Didn't know he was wealthy. He says, "Oh, I can get a suit. That's okay. Come with the suit, and we'll let you go to the ring with Tombstone." And Tombstone was working with Scott Hall, not Razor Ramon. It's Scott Hall at the time. So Scott Hall would press slam, beat the guy every night because he was leaving, and he would press slam Paul Heyman at the end and all. But Paul Heyman came to came to all dressed up in a suit. He looked beautiful. And he came with a freaking gimmick cell phone. Not a cell phone, but like a cordless phone for the house. You know, so that was his gimmick. He was like Paul Heyman with his, a gimmick phone and, so in a nice suit. And so he thanked me when he left. He said, "Oh, thank you so much for letting me come to the ring. I'll never forget to thank Swansea." I said, "Oh, you did a great job. Thanks." So the next thing I see, we all stay in touch. He's a big star in AWA. He becomes a big manager. Then, I see him in Atlanta. We both working for Ted Turner. He's managing Paulie Dangerously, managing all these guys, Rick Rude, and a bunch of people. So we hit it. I said, "Man, great. We became friends." So to get to ECW, so I was in WCW. The Giant had finished up and went back to Argentina because his health started to fail. He's diabetic. Giants don't live long anyway. Andre, God bless him, died at the age of 43, and the Giant died at the age of 40-something, 46 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So he was getting sick, and he couldn't handle the road no more, so he went home. He made plenty of money, made a lot of money, and that money was like twice as much in Argentina,
Mm-hmm.
So he went home, and I stayed at WWF. So finally, in '94, whatever it was, wrestling in general was taking a little dive in their attendance. Vince came up to me and says, "Unfortunately, the business is down. It's down 20% or whatever. We're going to shave our expense, and we're going to have to let you go. But, Fonzie, we love you. You're a hell of a referee. We think a lot about you. When we come to Florida, you can work all the Florida shows, and when business picks back up, you jump right back into your position." I said, "Thank you." And he gave me a beautiful umbrella, like a severance pay, which was very nice. And I said, "Wow." So I go home to Florida. I get my notice, and I go home to Florida. And now I haven't been off. I worked full time for, 12, 15 years or something. It was crazy without any time off. Just, a week here, or, a week there, but you don't have time off in wrestling because somebody will take your place.
Yeah,
the money's so good. The money's so good that you can't afford to take time off because, you're going to lose your job possibly, but, you get some time off, but they don't kill you, but actually they do. They beat you up on the road. It's tremendously hard, especially working for WWE and WCW. You're nationwide. So I go home and I'm happy as shit. I'm home like a month, maybe 2 months. I'm on the tractor. I got 5 acres. I got orange trees. I'm happy as fuck. My house is paid for. I got a little money in the bank. This is the first time I've had off in so, I've been off a week or two here and there, but no off for a month or two. You know what I mean? So I didn't know what to do with myself. I said, "My God, this is great." So I'm home driving my tractor and the phone rings. It's Paul Heyman. I haven't talked to Paul in a while because he stayed in WCW and I was in WWF. So I said, "Hey, Paul." He said, "Oh, fine. How you doing? I heard you left WWF." And I said, "Yeah, man, I'm so happy I'm home." And God, he said, "Well, you want to do something? I have this company, ECW." I said, "ECW? What the fuck's an ECW?" Because I had never worked for an indie show in my life. Florida Championship Wrestling, WCW, WWF, all Japan, so he says, "Well, this little company we're starting, and since you just left WWF, I have this little angle I want you to do, and you come in for 4 weeks, we'll pay you well, we'll fly you in and out, and be doing me a favor." I said, "Okay, sounds good." I was still on Monday Night TV because they tape. Back then, they would do one live show and then 2 weeks of taping, and they would show those one live show. So next Monday would be a tape show. The following Monday would be a tape show. So I was still on TV when they brought me to ECW. The people kind of knew who I was because they're all smart marks in ECW. Basically, they know wrestling like, Henry Ford knows his cars. So So, I come in there, and Paul Heyman says, look, I want you to come in with your blue shirt, your bow tie, you're fresh off of WWF. He says that's family entertainment. They want the doctor, his wife, and his 2 kids sitting at ringside. They don't want 25, 27-year-old kids sitting at ring. You know what I mean? We're hardcore. We're blood and guts and sex and violence and drugs and rock and roll. He says, I said, what do you want me to do? He says, I want you to be anti-violent, and you are affiliated with the Athletic Commission of Pennsylvania, which I kind of was a little bit. I had my license, you got to get certified to be a referee in certain states, New York, Pennsylvania, so on. So I would go in. Shane Douglas brought me in, to wrestling-wise, and he brought me in and said, hey, this is a conservative referee. And Shane was a wrestler. He wasn't about the violence and going through tables and all juiced up and barbed wire and all that bullshit. So Shane brought me in to kind of take care of his matches and do. So anyway, the people hated me because I was interrupting their violence. So a particular match was Ian Rotten and Axel Rotten had a feud going. They had been working this angle for months. They would have a tie-pay death match where the hands are taped. They dip their hands in glue, then dip them in some type of broken glass. Then they have a match. So these people have been waiting for this match. The bell rings. I'm the special referee. The people would know something's up. So one of the guys hit the other, and there was a little bit of juice. I mean, like a trickle of blood by his forehead and by his eye. I stopped the match 3 minutes into the match. Say, due to the lack of vision, because the blood, I'm stopping this match. No contest. And the people wanted to freaking kill me. They were legitimately waiting for this match. They know it's a work, but they want to see the work. They want to see the action. They want to see the blood and guts and tables. So when I stopped the match, they said, oh, my God. And 911 was supposed to choke slam me because that's what all he did, wrestling in 911. And then I was supposed to leave the territory. But anyway, to get to how I got there that's how I got there. But the angle got over so good, and I guess I did my role, I did my thing, because I was a legitimate referee. People knew I was been around for a long time, and they fucking hated me. So that's when Paul said, well, Fonzie, we want to put you with Taz and make you a manager, and so on, and they offered me some decent money, and you only work Friday and Saturday. I said, damn, how sweet is that? And so we worked out, and I went with Taz from refereeing to Taz. Then I went to the first pay-per-view and turned on Taz after a year and went with Van Dam and Sabu, and I was there 5 years with a top spot the whole 5 years.
Absolutely, and you kind of mentioned it a little bit just then. You made an amazing transition from referee to manager and then ultimately to performer. I watched a little bit of some of your interviews and stuff before talking to you today, and I think it's not always said. What's not always said about you is how good you were at inciting the fans and really getting them all riled up. But what was that transition like with you from referee to manager to performer? Like you had said that you wanted to wrestle growing up, but you knew you were 155 pounds. But was that like one of your favorite things to do in your wrestling career was actually get to wrestle?
Well, it happened all so fast, the transition. It kept transitioning from come in for 4 weeks and be a special referee and stop the violence. Then they hooked me up with Taz right away after the 4 weeks, and boom, boom, boom. It happened so fast, I didn't have time to think about it. So I wasn't saying, oh, my God, I'm going to be a manager. I had already been in the business 15 or 18, whatever. I started in 1978, full-time in 1980, so I had been around a long time. This was May of 95 again. I started in Florida, May 1980, then May of 95, I was in ECW. So the transition happened so fast, I didn't have time to think. But I did have a little trouble. The only trouble I had was doing interviews. Paulie was meticulous about the interviews. And, I was doing like 10 takes. I couldn't say, hey, next Tuesday night or in Poughkeepsie, my man Taz is going to kick Sabu's ass and so on and so on. So I kept having to do them over and over. Finally, this only happened for a short time, but Tommy Dreamer came up to me and says, Fonzie, I want you to treat it like a shoot, like it's real. I said, what? He says, yeah, you're going to go to Poughkeepsie, and you guys are going to wrestle Taz. I mean, you and Taz are going to wrestle Sabu. He says, just say what's going to happen, I said, okay, let me try it again. So and I said, Saturday night, Daddy, we're in Poughkeepsie, and I hate Poughkeepsie because I like Poughkeepsie, and I hate Poughkeepsie, and Sabu, we're gonna kick your ass, blah, blah, blah. So I just said what was true. We're gonna go to Poughkeepsie. I didn't particularly care. Let's use Newark instead of Poughkeepsie, because Newark's a dirty time. You know what I mean? Not one
absolutely.
of my favorite cities. The smokestack. You drive by the airport on the interstate, and it sucks. You won't want to live there, right?
Yeah.
So I would say, hey, in Newark, New Jersey, Daddy, it stinks. There's trouble, bad prostitutes. That's the only thing I like about it is the strip clubs, Daddy. So I started doing one take. They started calling me soon after Tommy told me to treat it like a shoot, to say exactly what's going to happen. And then they called me One Take Fonzie, and I've been One Take Fonzie for, since '95.
That's incredible. And you mentioned, you had such a long career in professional wrestling, and still doing stuff today. What do you consider like some of your best career highlights in the business?
Well, ECW for sure. I really enjoyed building that company, help being a part of that company. I was instrumental after I was there for a while. Paul Heyman let me, help him in the office. Tommy Dreamer was his right-hand man. I would say I was his third man, you know what I mean, or whatever. But he let me, start directing and help him with the young guys. I had a lot of respect. When I walked into the dressing room in ECW, when Paul Heyman brought me in for that first 2 weeks, I didn't know one guy in the dressing room. There was Mikey Whipwreck, Sandman, Tommy Dreamer, Taz, Sabu, all these guys. And who the fuck are these guys? I've never seen them. They were nobody, but they were stars in ECW because Paul Heyman built them, but they didn't have any type of reputation. But they all knew me from, I had been in the business already my whole, for a long time. So these guys treated me with respect tremendously. So I was well liked, and I loved the company, and I was a part of, the first pay-per-view, and I did 21 pay-per-views, and I was helped Paulie with every one of them, which was great. Paul Heyman paid me really good. Another good thing, another peak in what I consider a highlight was walking in Madison Square Gardens for the first time, which, I've been there, a dozen times or so, but first time was unique. Getting a chance to travel, like overseas, like to Japan. I've been to Japan 13 times. That was phenomenal. They brought me over to do the 91 to do the Ric Flair Fujinami match, 65,000 people, just one match, and, spectacular. I like that. I like going to Europe, working with Hogan and Yokozuna, stuff like that. Big thing for me was after I became a veteran after so many years, and what I liked was helping the young guys, because a lot of guys took me under the wing, like Bobo Brazil, Jack and Jerry Briscoe, of course, Dusty, like a father to me. In fact, I told Dusty after a while, I said, Dusty, I wish you were my father, because my father had passed away. And he said, I am your father, son. So I love that. That was a highlight of my career, being involved, being on TV all the time, making my family, making money was a really nice thing. That was a really good experience because, I didn't come from a poor family, but, we weren't Paul Heyman money like his father, big time lawyer. My father was a school teacher and worked for the government. And so on and so on. But, you know, we did well, middle class, but so I was making more money than anybody in my family ever. You know, I was making six figures, which is fucking fantastic, brother. My first 6 figures. Oh, I got paid my first check in WCW when Dusty brought me in. My check was so fucking big, brother. For me, it was big. Not for you, it may not be that big. With Dusty, it may not be that big. For Vince McMahon, it may not be. But for me, to get like a $8,000 check, you know, I said, so I didn't cash it. I took it to Dusty. I said, Dusty, I think they made a mistake. They paid me, look at this, $8,000. They paid me too much. He started laughing. He said, "Finally, you can make way more than that we used to." I said, "Wow, are you kidding me?" So that was a highlight of my career. You know, getting a big check. And doing special matches and being really good at my craft and being called out to do special matches and world-renowned for being a spectacular referee and being an office guy and helping guys. Like when I do these conventions, like not too long ago, I seen a wrestler. His name is Adrian Street.
Mm-hmm.
And I hadn't seen him since the 80s. So this was, you know, I'd seen him 5 years ago at a convention or something. He went up to me and says, "Fonzie, oh my God," he hugged and kissed me and says, "Fonzie, if it wasn't for you, I would have never made it through the Florida territory," because he couldn't remember some things that I used to tell him what to do in the ring. Say, "Oh, you can do this, do that." So I got him through a lot of matches. And I got through a lot of guys like that. Ed the Bull Gantner, many a guys, Luger, many a guys that I've got through. That was a highlight to pay it back and be get a pat on the back for being great at my craft. You know, that was spectacular. When Vince McMahon said, "Oh, I've seen you. You're athletic. I really like you. And, oh, good for you." And that was a big, meaningful moment when the most powerful wrestling personality on the planet, there's nobody bigger than Vince, is there?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. For the biggest guy in professional wrestling to put me over, said I do a great job. That would want to make me work harder. For instance, we were in, I think, Green Bay, Wisconsin. We were doing the TV. And so we were going to do a pull apart with Tatanka and Bam Bam Bigelow in the dressing room area, the hallway. Nobody could see her. This is pre-taped. Then they show it during the show. So the angle was they were going to do a big angle and wrestle each other for a few months. So they were going to do like walk in the hallway and spot each other and start fighting, and then all the referees come pull them apart. That's commonly done, right? Done all the time. So I didn't want to, you know, all the referees, and I told Bam I wanted to do something a little more because I like to, not to show off, but I like to be good at what I do and, you know, come up with things on my own. So I said, "Bam Bam, you see that trash can over there that's about 30 feet away or whatever, 10, 15, 20 feet away?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "When we do the pull apart, usually the referees would get pushed around and then finally 4 referees would grab somebody by the waist and pull them apart. So I'm a little small guy and I shouldn't be able to touch Bam Bam Bigelow. So when I ran up to Bam Bam, I said, "Bam Bam, you get me and throw me into that trash can in the air like an airplane. And I'll hit the trash can, take a bump, make you look good." He said, "Okay, Fonzie, are you sure?" I said, "Yeah." So here goes the angle. It's 2 cameras. Vince is standing there watching the angle. He's directing several agents, Rene Goulet and Tony Gurria and Pat Patterson are all there watching. So, because this is important shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, I did the first Monday Night Raw. We'll get to that in a minute. But, so here comes the pull apart. The 2 wrestlers lock up and they're fighting each other. You give them 10 seconds and then here come all the referees. He pushes off the referee. Bam Bam pushes one off. Tatanka pushes one off. I come in. Bam Bam grabs me and throws me into the air like a freaking bullet. And I fly and hit the trash can. It looks spectacular. It's spectacular. I didn't get a scratch on me. I don't know how it happened, but I was really good at doing shit like that. So after cut, that's a wrap. Vince came up to me and says, Fonzie, that was a great bump. Thank you. So that made me feel good. Another thing that made me feel good was the first night at the Manhattan Center for the first Monday Night Raw ever. So I hadn't been in New York too many times. I worked at one Madison Square Gardens. We're doing this big thing. Nobody knew that Monday Night Raw was going to be the most longest running episode of TV thing consistently in the history of TV or whatever. You know, it's a big thing.
Yeah.
So with the first one, you know, it's a test or whatever, and Vince is, you know, putting it together. I don't know too much. But anyway, I know it's going to be a big deal. So I want to look good for multiple reasons. One reason, if I dress nice, and if I go to a Marriott and walk in and I got a pair of jeans on and nice shoes and a T-shirt, I walk up to the desk and say, "Oh, excuse me, William Alfonso, got a reservation?" "Okay, we'll be right with you." But if I walk in and I got a beautiful suit, I got a Louis Vuitton bag, and I'm wearing a Samaritan Rolex, they say, "Oh, Mr. Alfonso, we've been expecting you. How can we help you?" You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Appearance and presentation is everything. Goes a long way in life. So anyway, first Monday Night Raw come. So I said, let me dress beautiful. So I got a nice suit, got my Samaritan Rolex on, which, you know, about $2,000, $3,000 back then. But I was making 120 grand, so, you know, I could afford one. I've got nice luggage. I walk in, and remember the Zuba pants?
Yes.
Everybody was wearing those on the road, and jeans and T-shirts, and, you know, so I walk in, I got a beautiful fucking designer suit on, fucking $1,000 suit. Didn't have many of them, but I had a couple. I looked fucking spectacular. My hair was cut beautiful. And I walk in, and Vince is at the ring. You know, there's a couple guys working out in the ring. It's like 1 o'clock. And Vince goes, "Fonzie, come here." And he says, "Oh, you look great, Fonzie." Oh, and he calls Earl Hebner, Dave Hebner, Joey Morella, Mike Quinones, all the referees. "Oh, all you referees, come over here." So all the referees come to Vince. We're all at ringside. Guys working out in the ring. And he says, "Hey, you guys see how Fonzie's dressed? That's how I want you to dress from now on the road for any event, pay-per-view, any TVs, any big events. You dress just like that." So I said, "Oh, that's good." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I had heat with all the referees. Said, "Fonzie, why you dress like that? Now we got to dress like that, you motherfucker." They were all mad at me for a minute, you know what I mean? But I didn't give a fuck. Dressing nice. You should dress nice. You're representing a multi-billion-dollar company. You're on TV. And plus, when I walk into a room, I'm walking through the airport, and I'm looking fucking sharp, got a $1,000 suit, and look fucking great. Who is that guy? They don't know I'm a referee. They don't know I'm not Hulk Hogan. I don't have blonde hair. I'm not 230, big arms, you know. So they say, he's somebody. I wonder, he's so well dressed. He looks so good. Damn, he's got to be something. That's not an ordinary guy, you know what I mean? So I like that. It got me in a lot of doors.
Yeah, yeah. Now, you mentioned that you're down in Florida, and but we on the Northeast, we're actually going to get to see you shortly, and you're being brought up by Eric Sims of ESS Promotions on September 21st. You're going to be at Legends of the Ring, and then on September 22nd, you're going to be at the Wrestling Universe. Is there anything that you want to tell your fans, the people that are coming out to see you, anything that you want them to know before they come and see you?
Yeah, of course I do, Daddy. Well, here's the deal. I have been off for a few years. I took some years off because I was burned out on the road. And I said, well, you know what I mean? So, you haven't seen me in the Northeast on too many shows, have you?
No, not really.
You haven't seen me at any indie shows. You don't see me at hardly, I think I might have done 1 or 2 conventions in the Northeast. I did WrestleMania up there a while back.
Yep.
The convention, it was a while back with me and Van Dam, and maybe one more at the ECW Arena when Tommy did a show there, the House of Hardcore. So I've been up there a couple of times in the last 5 or 8 years. So it's good that I haven't been up there. So now that people haven't seen me in so long, ECW had like a cult following. You know what I mean? So anybody who was affiliated with ECW automatically tagged in, and especially me, because I had a pretty dominant spot with Van Dam and Sabu and Taz. I had a really good spot. It was in some really good matches. You remember the match that I had where I beat Beulah's ass?
Oh, I remember. That's also the one where you lost 1/3 of your blood.
They had to rush me to the hospital. If I didn't lose all that blood, if it wasn't a spectacular, bloody, hell of a 7-minute match, we wouldn't be talking about it today. It would just be a little something that happened, you know what I mean? But since I almost bled to death, I had to get rushed to the hospital and lost feeling in my head and 27 stitches and so on and so on. So anyway, I have been in the Northeast. When I was with WCW, we worked everywhere but Madison Square Gardens. When I was in WWF, we worked everywhere in the Northeast, including Madison Square Gardens. When I was in ECW, we worked everywhere but Madison Square Garden. We worked all the smaller venues all through the Northeast. So what I'm saying is I've met a lot of fantastic, very cool, I'm not going to say wrestling fans, people in my travels when I was working for those 3 companies in the Northeast, from Philly to New Jersey to New York. There's a lot of great people, and I got a lot of love from those people. Now since I've started back a little bit and got on social media, immediately when I joined social media, I wasn't on social media until just 5 months ago. I wanted to avoid it. I didn't want to. It's not that I didn't like wrestling, because I love professional wrestling. I love the sports entertainment business. It's been very good to me, Daddy. I mean, really good to me. But I just got burned out, so I needed some time. But now I'm back in it. As soon as I joined social media, I got a Facebook and Instagram. Like the first week, I got 5,000 people following me, which is tremendous. You know what I mean? So it's just growing and growing. So what I'm saying is, you guys haven't seen me for a long time, and those states, Philly and New Jersey and Pennsylvania and New York, have been so good to me. So good to me. Spectacular people. I've been in some spectacular situations up there. I love you guys so much. Please, if you come to the event, I'm working several little events there. I think I'm coming in on the 20th, and I'm working some little indie shows around New York, New Jersey and stuff. It's on Eric's website, and it's on mine too. I posted on my social media, on Instagram and my Facebook. It's all the information's on there about these few shows. Please, if you do attend these shows, please come up to me and say hello and let me thank you guys for being a part of your lives. Now, I've been doing shows all in Ohio for a company in the last couple of months, for a company called AIW.
That's the Absolute Intense Wrestling, correct?
Absolutely. And they remind me of a young ECW. They're getting started. You know what I mean? It's hardcore. They got some all young guys that didn't know one of them by name. You know what I mean? The guys I've never seen before. It's like Paul Heyman creating all new stars again. Like I said, Taz and Sandman and Tommy Dreamer and Mikey Whipwreck and all these guys. Who the fuck are those guys? Now they're big names, but before, I didn't know them. But I've been working in. So my point is, working with and they put me with the RVD of AIW. His name is Matthew Justice. He's really tough. Oh my God, he's hardcore. He's beautiful. Got a great body. His 2 favorite wrestlers, what got him into professional wrestling, were Van Dam and Sabu. So imagine how excited we were to meet each other. And he's on top. So it's like they're bringing me in to put me right with the top guy and paying me really good for indie company. So my point is, the people, the boys, all the wrestlers treat me like a superstar. The promoter treats me like John Thorne. He's like a young Paul Heyman. He's treating me like a superstar. They fly me in, put me at the Marriott, so I can pay me well. I do my shit, and the people, they're all the fans. A lot of ECW fans, they all come up to me. Oh, Fonzie, thank you. I remember I was 11 years old watching you. Now he's 33. You know what I mean? They all got money now. Because when they were young, they watched me, and so now they're all got money. They want to spend it. I was a part of their childhood. Guys from 11 to, 20, whatever. But all those people come up to me all the time and put me over like I'm a superstar and call and tell me all these things. And that's just heart. It makes my heart feel good. And I say, hey, we appreciate you coming. I say, well, I appreciate you more. When I sign an autograph or a picture or something, I'm giving more pictures away up there. Now, I won't be giving away too many pictures when I come to the event September, mid-September, the 20th, 21st, 22nd, because I'm working for a company who's bringing me in. But the AIW, he's bringing 100 pictures with me and gives them out. They can't believe how nice I'm not a nice guy. I'm just a good person. I believe in good karma. So why wouldn't I give a couple of pictures away to somebody who comes up and puts me over like $1 million and been watching me for 25 years? You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Cost me 88 cents if I could print a picture. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they like that. They won't forget it.
No.
So my whole point is to the people at the convention coming up, you're going to have some big names in there. So I'm not in competition with them, but when I do these shows with big names like Sting and Cactus Jack and all these big names, I get almost as much attention as they do. It's pretty humbling for me and pretty flattering when they come up to me and treat me like a superstar. It is very fucking cool, Daddy. So I just want to pay back. Please come up to me and say, hey, I heard you on the podcast the other day. Sit down, chat with me, hang out for a little bit, and we'll take it from there.
Well, we are looking forward to it. We can't wait to come out and see you that weekend. And we know you're very busy. We want to let you go soon. My last question for you is for anybody who's looking into getting into this business and maybe more specifically becoming a referee, what's the most important thing about being a referee?
Be cool just like Fonzie, Daddy, and you have a job for life.
All right. Well, we want to thank you so much. Be sure and look up ESS Promotions, Eric Sims. Follow Bill Alfonso on social media, and come on out and see him in September, the 20th, 21st, and 22nd. Mr. Alfonso, thank you so much for coming on, and we really do appreciate all that you've given for the world of professional wrestling.
Yeah, thanks, Eddie, and I appreciate you having me on and let me plug my shows and stuff. And Eric Sims is a fantastic promoter. He's brought in super big names, and now he's bringing in me, and I'm glad that he's bringing me into New Jersey because it's one of my the Northeast is one of my favorite places. Made a lot of friends, and I love the Northeast. There's always big crowds, and I get a lot of love there. So very cool to be coming back. It's almost like my second home. And even though I talk trash a little bit about Newark, I was only kidding. Actually, I love Newark because they got great strip clubs there, Daddy.
Well, if we can't find you, then we'll know where you're at.
Oh, man. Thanks again to Eric Sims and Fonzie. It's another great interview from ESS Promotions. Be sure to go to the Legends of the Ring. When is this great card there, Credo? Legends of the Ring. It's the convention center. Is that Monroe, New Jersey?
That is. It's happening on September 21st. It's a Saturday. And then they also have, the big event happening. He's got some other guests for that in November, so maybe we'll talk to a few guys down the road. But ESS Promotions, check him out and check out all the guests he's bringing in over the next few months. But guys, if you're going to tune in next week, anotherwrestlingpodcast.com. Like us, follow us, subscribe to us. All the links are on the site. Leave us a review. Leave us some love. But next week, we have a Ring of Honor superstar joining us. He actually joined us a few years ago, probably 2 years ago to be exact. We have on the Mercenary, Flip Gordon. We're going to catch up with him and what he's been up to over the past few months. So stay tuned for that, guys. The guests are back. It's happening. But, guys, maybe we could start this as a new segment or something. But any last word of the week that happened since last week? Any last words from you guys?
Yeah. I want to throw a shout out to Harambe real quick. You know. No. All right. I want to say this about the NXT UK card. An amazing from top to bottom. And I want to throw it out there. They did that show without two of their big guns. There was no Rhea Ripley, and the Bruiserweight was not on the card. So that's pretty impressive that you have a second developmental territory and you didn't use all your big guns. And that show was fantastic. And when I saw Rhea Ripley last week, I just finally got caught up. We just watched this week's NXT, and I saw last week's episode. Rhea Ripley in regular NXT, they're starting to beef up that roster a little bit, and you're starting to see a little bit more of these guys from under. I'm really excited to see the next few weeks what's going to happen for NXT, and I can't wait for it to go live.
And you're speaking of NXT, tonight's NXT's main event, or whenever you're listening to this past episode of NXT with Adam Cole versus, what is his name?
Jimmy. He was the winner of that tournament. Yeah. Was it Jimmy
Jordan Miles?
Jordan Miles, that's right.
I keep thinking of his other name, which I can't get off the top of my head. But Jordan Miles, who was in Ring of Honor, who was in Evolve, now earned his number one contendership by winning the Breakout Tournament. That match with him and Adam Cole was definitely, if you have not, that is my must-see match of this week. Besides the Pete Dunne and Walter main event, if you've seen that, go watch NXT and watch Adam Cole.
Wasn't Pete Dunne.
Wasn't Pete Dunne? I apologize. It was not Pete Dunne.
Was that Mr. Smiley?
Tyler Bate.
There you go.
For some reason, I always say Pete Dunne when I mean Tyler Bate. I don't know what it is.
Because they run in that same group, you know. Although as Credo would say, all those UK guys, they all look the same.
Well, kind of. But either way, guys. Once again, another great week, guys. The weeks are picking up. Wrestling is picking up for this last half of the year, so it's exciting to be a wrestling fan, and hopefully you join us for that ride on another wrestling podcast.